Okay, so I found a cool thing, and I want to try to emulate it. So, here's the cool thing. There's a guy named Jorg Borges, who is a fantasy author from, I think, Argentina in the 40s. He had this story called The Library of Babel, which I found a translation of, so I'm going to post that on Canvas, and you guys can read it quick. The gist of it is, there's a place called the library that contains these bookcases that have in them 410-page books, and each book is full of random gibberish. But of course, in a million random gibberish books, right, there will be some words of meaning. Is that going to make sense? This is the monkeys with typewriters thing. So, someone very thoughtfully went out and made a library of babel.info in which you can look at the books. So, if you hit random in here, it will generate a random book. Right? Book. Random page in random book. Does anybody see anything recognizable?
Not necessarily.
Okay, so in the forum here, go. Where's the forum?
You're not ready.
In the forum, there are, in this browsing the hexes discussion area, there are things with pages, right? Like, here's a page with some English words in it. This one has the word reaccreditation this kind of sentence, right? Reaccreditation unrobes wrongfully.
Deep.
Super deep, right? So the question is, how deep would you have to, like, what is the level of depth you would have to see in one of these pages to stop believing in randomness? Someone found most of the first verse of Genesis 1 in here, which is pretty cool. So these are, like, they are randomly generated, right? But if you look through it long enough, you will find things of meaning, because, of course, random chance does not disallow pattern. So what I would like to do is make a little bit of code that generates a random book. And then the flip side of that is I would also like to make a little piece of code that searches random books for a specified thing. Does that make sense? Cool. So, first things first, I want to make the generate a random book thing. And I learned something really rad that I'm excited to share. Which is, wait, let's quick write pseudocode in our heads. I want to generate a random book, right? What's the first thing I should try to get working in order to generate a random book?
Generate one book?
Yeah, I should be able to generate some book. To generate some book, what do I need to do? Good. I'm going to need some strings, right? Because the way that processing deals with text files is as arrays of strings, right? Okay, so I'm going to need a random array of strings to make a book out of. You guys with that? Okay, so far, here's what I know. I need random string array to make random book. Making the book out of the string array should be, what level of task is that? Is that like a super hard task or a like really chill task? Yeah, to get it to go from a string array to a text file, right, is as simple as using the save strings command. So cool with that? So this is an easy level programming challenge, right? Because all I got to do is figure out how the save string command works again. All right, to get a random string array, what do I need? Okay, cool. That's basically reasonable. I need some way to add random characters to an existing string, right?
You also need to set a word size limit, like a word character.
Yeah, so let's look at the book. Let's look at one of these.
There's a lot of J's in that one.
Yeah, okay. So this one repeated, laid down on the J key for a while, right? Oh, look, it says chinchillas.
Nice.
God, these are bad for me in lecturing, because I can't look at this random block of text and, like, here. Yeah, and not try to parse it. Okay, so now that I'm comfortable that this is meaningless gibberish again. Looking at this, it's basically just generating a line, right? And it seems like the lines have a really consistent width, right? You guys see that? What are they made out of?
Characters.
Yeah, there's letters, right? And there's a little bit of punctuation. So it seems like I've got lowercase letters, right? So I'm going to need to make some random characters. And this is a bad use of the word characters. To make a random string, right? This might be slightly harder. Nah. Okay, what should my characters include? They should be lowercase, A to Z, right? What else did we see in there?
Space.
There was space. Yeah, so let's go look at it.
I just saw commas and periods.
Yeah, so all I see is commas and periods too. We could spend a little while flipping through here, or we could go read the rules. It is just commas and periods. So A to Z, spaces, comma, period. Those are the things I need in here, right? Okay, so to make a random character, what do I need? Like, now I'm doing, I think I've got my pseudocode like kind of halfway done here. This is bad pseudocode, right? But to generate a random character, what do I need? Yeah, I'm going to need an array filled with the things that are allowed, right? Okay, so now I'm actually going to code a little bit. So to make an array of allowed things, oh wait, I probably should just do a character array, right? Save myself some space. Okay. Character array, what do you want to call your character array? F no. I'm calling that letters. Because good coding conventions are a thing. What's that? What?
He said F you to a student.
No, I said F that. F that story. That's a very different line.
So close. Dang it.
Okay, so I want a character array called letters. How long do I want that character array to be? What do I want in there?
29. I think there's 26 in the alphabet or 24.
Okay, so let's start with just the letters, right? Like, so I'm gonna take my medium level programming task and try to make it easy, and just start with letters. So for right now, I'm gonna make this a 26 letter. How do you actually do this? What do you need? I need a semicolon, obviously. What do I want? None of you remember? So you want a new character array with 26 things in it. Cool. Now, it's complaining why? because you're not using it for anything. So let's use it for something. Please note that right here, instead of doing new character array, right? Another way I could have done that was just to say, okay, I'm going to take my character array letters, and I'm going to make some list, right, of stuff. And in that list, there should be A, comma, B, comma, C, comma, D, comma, E. Oh, and it's complaining because... Yeah, so it's annoying. Variable A does not exist, right? So I need to tell it that A is a character, and you do that the same way you tell it that it was a string, so you do this. Oh, and string does not match with characters because I need to actually tell it it's a character, not a string. Cool, right? Do you really want to go through and type single quote B, single quote, comma, single quote C, comma, whatever? Do you really want to populate this thing by hand? F no. So, instead of Joe typing a lot, let's figure out a better way. So this is what I want to do, right? But instead I'm just going to make it empty. And then what do I want to do? For loop it? Okay, here's the cool thing. And this is so rad, I just had to show it off. So I'm going to make a new character that I'm starting at A. Right? And then I'm just going to say as long as A is smaller than or equal to Z. Oops. What did I screw up? A few things. Don't whine about the other things. What's the primary thing that I've screwed up? It's annoyed that A is a variable here. Yeah, that needs to be CH, right? And what's Z? Z's not a variable, right? It needs to be a character, so I have to put single quotes around that. And now, this thing doesn't look like it's complaining. You guys see that? Yes, you can increment by characters. This is so freaking cool. They have a numeric value in them somehow, some way. That was the problem I was running into with the freaking keys, right? And you were running into this with keys the other day, right, Gabriel?
I don't know if that was the keyboard keys or if it was the ASCII keys.
Yeah, so it's in when processing takes a value from a keystroke, it stores it in the key variable, but the way it stores it in there is funny. It stores it as a number that corresponds to the key on the keyboard. So what was the one we found out? The numpad 7 is like 51 or something?
7 is 55, actually, because I tried it with the top as well. So
okay, so 7 stores as 55. What's up, Ben?
There's a table of that stuff, correct?
Oh yeah, I'm sure there is.
It's called ASCII.
Yeah.
So it goes on the ASCII table.
Okay, so this is called off a standard ASCII table, maybe, probably. Cool. So, what do I want to do as I loop through my characters? So I'm starting with A, right? What do I want to do with that? Okay, I want to go to the next character. So the next character's taken care of in this CH++, right? Yeah, I want to put them in the array, right? So I want to take letters, right? Okay, equals it's not complaining. It's not going to work, but it's not complaining. Why isn't it going to work? What's A on that ASCII table? number, is it 0?
Yeah.
Probably not. So let's try it just for kicks. If I hit go, it's gonna out of bounds exception 97. What the hell? Oh god. Oh god.
Oh no. And use on everything. So you're saying? Oh wait.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Because if you have.
So that line clearly didn't work. Let me try that again and just see if Java's broken. Okay. So it seems like we're back to something that doesn't crash the computer at least. Let me just do this. I want to know what's in there, right? And this is a debugging process thing, right? So when you're trying to debug code, what's the thing I'm confused about? Yeah, the way CH acts, right? So to find out how CH acts, let me just print the friggin' thing out. What's it going to print out, probably? It's probably going to print out A. Oh, yeah, look, there's the alphabet. Cool. You guys see that? Okay, and this is the weird thing, right? Because characters are fundamentally a character, but also a thing you can loop through, which means they're kind of acting like a number, right? So how would you get the value of CH out? Yeah, let's try turning it into an integer. That might work. Oh, there you go. Turn it into an integer, you get 97. Oh, hey, that's what it said before, right? When it said out of bounds exception, it said 97. It was saying, dude, there's no 97th place in your array, you dingus. So how do I get it to start at the bottom?
So letter CH minus 97.
Nice. Let's just pass it the yeah. Let's pass it minus integer. What the hell? Typing is hard.
Is it 8CH minus 97?
I'm going to pass it the integer version of A just in case the Unicode or the ASCII coding table changes later, which is really not likely in any way. But if I wasn't sure how it was coding these, oops. Why is it still printing out 97 through 100 and whatever?
You still got your print line in there, and you're not doing anything with the array. You're just
Oh, cool. Good point. All right. So I don't need the print line in there anyway, because that was debugging, right? So I encourage you to leave your debugging stuff in here until you've got a working program, because it's easier to like uncomment some stuff than it is to like refigure out how you were getting that thing to print out. Okay, so right now this should do absolutely nothing on the screen, right? It should just populate the array. Okay, so how do I check that I got the array populated? Probably not. Yeah, so if you want to print an array, right, you need a for loop. So to print the array, we need for integer I starting at 0 and whatting? I up to 26 is right now, but later when I add the comma, the space, and the period, it'll be wrong. Yeah, so I want some kind of, what was the array called? I need letters dot length. Okay, so that's starting at 0, going up to the length of the letters array, and going up by 1. And what do I want to do in there? I want to print line Oops, not print line, print. Where's the key? Print line. Not those, this. Let's print I, that'll be fun. What's this going to do? It's going to print out 0 to 25. So what I want letters, bracket I. Okay, and that should print out A through Z. Sick. A through Z. Print it out. Nice. And I have populated that array without doing it by hand, which was about probably the same time commitment, but a hell of a lot easier. And more fun. Because I learned that you can loop through letters, which I should add in here as a comment. Holy F, you can loop through characters.
You should probably add on to that, in quotation marks, ASCII table.
Good idea. Cool. So, note. All right, questions? Good with this? So, before I make this too much longer, should I think about methodizing this whole thing? Or do we want to just functionally program? Okay, cool. We'll just leave it here then. Alright, so what else did I want to do? Oh, what was this? This thing was a debugging business, right? And I probably should add to myself a note for what that was doing. So what was that doing?
Prints the value of the array stored in letters.
Okay, so that loops through and prints out the letters array, right? When you've got debugging things, it's probably a good idea if you're commenting blocks of code out to one, double comment your comments, because you're going to use the select and then right click to decomment them, which will decomment the whole thing. You don't really want it to trip over your comments, so if you double comment them, then you won't have to worry about which block of crap you're grabbing, right? I do uncomment and comment. My comment stays commented. Furthermore, let's see. So far I've got my character array called letters made. I've populated it. Now what do I want to do with it?
You want to randomly take a character from that array and stick it into a string.
Okay. So, I think I need a string to stick it into, right? Okay, so I'm going to make a new string. What's your string going to be called?
Words.
F, no. I don't know. Sure, you could call it words. That's a really, yeah, that's a really hopeful name. Right, because by and large, this is going to be jumble of letters, right?
Or just call it Babel.
We're not calling it string. Yeah, whatever. Name this reasonably. I think when I wrote this earlier, my naming convention was current line. Okay, so string word. What do you want to start it at? Make sure your lines start at before you have anything in it. Empty. Okay, so empty quotes, right, makes a empty string. So that string just doesn't have anything in it right now. And then, what do I want to do with this? Yeah, okay, so that's going to be down here, right? Okay, so I'm going to be doing a bunch of random letters, right? So we're going to do for integer, I guess I equals 0, Where do we want to go up to? Yeah, whatever the width of the book was, right? Oops, not the right thing. Ballpark. What is that? 40, maybe? I'm going to go with 10 to start. Yeah, basically I just don't want this for loop to take forever to execute, right? So when you're doing things initially, just keep them small. Like, instead of trying to read the whole text file, read a couple lines so that you know whether or not things are working. In this case, I'm trying to create a text file, right? So I'm just going to create short lines first, and then I'll tweak the length later. What else do I need in the for loop? So I got starting at 0, going up to 10, by ones. Okay. Oh, and if I'm going to use this 10, I might use that a few times, right? Is with me on that? What should I do with that? Yeah, I'm going to make a variable and call it line length. And then it's complaining that it doesn't exist, so I'm going to go up here. What variable type do I want line length to be? Oops, and we're going to start it at 10, not at 0. And we're going to make it an integer. Everybody good with why I'm doing that? Okay. All right. What do I want to do? Well, I'm less than the line length. What should I do? Wait. Is it called words? It's called word. Word equals word plus, and then here somehow I need random letter, right? It is quite annoyed that I'm trying to add something that is empty right now. You guys see that? Like, it's ticked. What do I want it to add? I want it to add a random letter, right? Okay, so to get it to add a to it, what would I put here?
Letters bracket 0.
Okay, so now that should print. No, it's not printing anything. If I wanted it to print the word, right, I'd try, okay, so print line, I just want to check that this is working, right? Like, just check that I can add a string and a character together like that. You guys see that? Like, these two variable types don't actually match. Word's a string, letters is a character. Can you stick those together?
No, so you have to make
I don't know, it depends on the language. It's not yelling at me, and processing's pretty good at yelling at me about this, but it totally depends on the language. If you try this in Python, it'll let you try. I don't think it'll work, but it'll let you try. So you want to be just a little careful when you're doing something like this, and just check to see that it's working the way you intended it to work. Right? So here, my guess is that this should print out just an A the first time it goes through the loop, and then it should print out 2 A's, and then 3 A's, and then more A's, right? I want to be using print line. I don't know what the print command does. Okay, what do I want to print line? Yeah, let's just print out the word. And just because I'm learning, I think I'm going to show you a varsity trick, which is in your print line, often it's a good idea to put what you're printing out, especially if you're using it for debugging. Right? So in this print line command, I want word space equals space equal. So that's going to print out the string word equals, right? And then it'll print out the string that's actually stored in Word. So if I run this, I should get a whole mess of word equals A's. Ah! Right? Okay, perfect. So, now what? Now I want to make it not pick the 0th word, but some random word, right? Okay, so I need a random of letters dot length, and oh, it's a letters, and now it's like, yo, dude, that's a float. Yep, so I need to round it down with the integer command. So this thing is a massive stack of stuff, right? The first thing it's doing on the inside here is figuring out how long the letters array is. And then it's passing that thing to the random method, which is picking a float between 0 and that number, not including the right-hand end. And then it's rounding that down to an integer number, and then it's putting that into the letters array, getting a string out, or a character out, rather, and then appending that to the string word. Okay, so now this should make what? So this should make one random word, right, that's 10 characters long, and it's going to print it out one character at a time. So it looks like my random word was Pfefferjexsblue.
It works.
Which seems like legit working. Cool. How long am I going to have to go before I find a reasonable word? Oh wait, that one had eel map. Weed. Weed. Great, perfect. Okay, so if you play with this for a while, you will eventually see something that means something to you. It's with the... Alright, whatever. Okay, so that's my word, right? What do I want to do with that now? Yeah, I want to make that into a text document, right?
We want to get rid of it happening adding an extra letter every time. We just want that end word, don't we?
Okay, so if I just want the end word, right, I can take my print line out of the for loop, right, and put it down here. And now it should just print out the last word, right, the result of the for loop after it gets out. Okay, this is fun. Ooze. Ooze. Okay, so this is a terrible example for me. My ADD is way too high for this. Okay, so I have, now it's got printing a random string, right? What do I do with the random strings? Yeah, I need to stick those to a text document, right? Which takes another array, right? So what's my other array going to be? So I need a, what category of array do I need? Yep, it's got to be a string array to feed a Word document. And what do you call the? Sure. So I'm going to call it document line, right? So that's going to be an array of strings called document line. What do I want to set it equal to start with? So close. It's an array, right? Let's go with new string. How big do I want this string array to be? I don't know. It should be like the number of lines that I want to generate. Right? Like the books are all 410 pages long. So really it should be like 400 10 times the number of lines on a page.
365,
Yeah, sure. So set it to something, right? Just to start with. So I'm going to set it to... Oh, F no. Put in a variable. So I'm going to set it to num lines, right? And then I'm going to make a new integer called num lines that's going to start at 4. Okay, so I probably should start commenting my global variables here to remind myself what they are, but I feel like I've got a video going, so I'm okay with that. It would be a good idea to insert some comments here. Let's see. So what do I want it to do? I want it to, so it generates a word, right? I've got it doing that. So it made a word. And then what do I want to do with the word? Not print it out, really. Oh, close. That's how I want to get the string array into the text document.
Oh, you want to add it to the array.
Yeah, I want to put it on the end of the string array, right? So the string array was called document line. Actually, we should call it document lines. That seems like it makes more sense. So here I should take document, document doesn't have a capital D. Document lines equals how do you add? Yeah, I'll need a for loop. I just want to get one of these adding first. How do you add something to an array? It could possibly be append. What an excellent idea, Story. So, you need to save over the top of the array you were looking at, and you want to append this to the end. Right? It should be noted that this is the slow and processor-consuming way of adding a string to the end of an array. A better way to do this exists, but I'm not going to show it to you today. Okay? Because it's kind of friggin' complicated. Okay, so back to my sketch. I would like to append, and I need to pass this two things. It says it needs a byte string and a byte. In other words, it needs some stuff. So word is the thing you intend to add, right? So that should go in the second slot. And what's the array you intend to add word to? The document lines array. Okay. Now, if I execute this, what's it going to do? It's going to do absolutely nothing because I have no outputs uncommented. So how do I want to check that something got into the document lines array? Which thing do I want out of the document lines array? Yeah. We could print out the whole document lines array too, just to double check, but the 0 one should. Uh-oh. That's not good. What have I done? Oh, I know what I've done. Guess where it is? Why is it 4? Yeah, I stuck it on the end. How long was the array to start with? Had 4 empty slots in it. Right? You guys see that? So it had 4 empty slots in it, and I used the append command to add it to the end. Right? So the 0 slot was empty, the 1 slot was empty, the 2 slot was empty, the 3 slot was empty, and then I stuck word in the newly created 4 slot. Well, that was dumb. My bad. Where did I actually want to stick it? Maybe the append command wasn't a good idea here. Where did I actually want word to go? Yeah, I really just wanted that straight up in the 0 slot because I had space. You guys with me on that? Like, I had space. So when I go to add it, it works. Like, no problem. So now, when I print document line... Oh, crap. Cool. So, I forgot to print out the thing I wanted and not something that wasn't in the array. So if I ask this to print out the second thing in the array, right, in the 1 slot, what would it tell me? No, because there's nothing in there. Okay, so cool. I've got it at least storing word in there. But I don't want it to store just the 0 spot, right? I want it to go through and make a new line every time. Yeah, so I want to put this whole thing in a for loop. Uh-oh. Okay, so maybe that whole thing needs to be in a for loop. Indenting is important. Oops, too much. Too much. Okay, cool. For what? Careful. No, careful. That'll break everything still. Yeah, you've got an eye on the inside, right? So if you loop through the eyes on the outside and then the eyes on the inside, it'll jack up eye, basically. So... yeah, I'm not sure what it would do in this language. It depends on the language, essentially, how that would go. Badly in most of them.
It's almost bad. The question is whether or not it does it anyways.
Yeah, it may well try to execute it anyways. It may just fall into the middle one and over-declare it and be fine. It may yell at you that you already initialized that variable. What the hell are you doing? It may just dump its memory and give up. Like, it depends. So for integer j equals 0. Oh, and this is actually a bad idea. Let me do a good coding convention. Let me use a different, like, that doesn't look like an I. So for integer x is 0, where do I want the x's to live? Yeah, like what range should they be in? They should live between 0 and... What was the number of lines I wanted to make? Num lines. Ah, thank you. X is smaller than num lines. Num lines. I really do love that processing yells at you about, like, that's not a variable you've declared. That's not the right type. You're missing a semicolon. Like, this thing is amazing. Most compilers do not have this level of idiot-proofness. Most of them will let you try stuff and just kick null pointer exceptions all the time.
All of them are wrong.
Yeah. And I want to go up by ones. Okay, and then in there, right, so for every line, I'm going to create a word. That's this inside for loop. And I'm going to set the 0 place in the document lines equal to that word, and then I'm going to print out the 0 place in the document lines. Is that what I want to do?
No, you want document lines rec x.
Yeah, good. You want to change which line you're setting equal to words and which line you're printing out. It should be noted, right, that you want to change both of those things. If you only change one, it'll look weird but work fine. You guys see this? So I'm getting Rubik's Smoothie over and over again, right? But that's just because it's the 0 line and I told it to print the 0 line. The document lines array is probably populated just fine. I just don't know that because I have the wrong line printing. So if I print all the lines, I get some kind of reasonable, uh-oh, what happened? Oh yeah, it's just sticking them onto the end of the previous one. Why is it doing that? No, because I didn't tell it not to. Right, the word string is global, right? It's up here. It was empty, and then you went through for the number of lines, right? You start at 0, you make a random word, stick that into the word variable, right? And then you stick that in the document lines, and then you print it out, and then you loop back through this thing, but you never erased words. You see that? Like your word variable just keeps getting appended to. So how do you solve this? Okay, so you could erase the word variable here. That would be totally fine. Another thing is you could move your declaration into the for loop, which would be a little funny, right? It won't really like that in a for loop, but if you were making a method here, you might make that word variable local to that method instead of making it global and then playing with it all the time. It's probably easiest just to erase it after you're done with it. Or you could erase it before you start to play with it. Either one of those would work. So now if we go through, we should get 4 random mishmashes. This one says B. Okay, so now I got my random mishmashes. Now what? Yeah, now I want to make a text document, right? Okay, so how do I make a text document? Oh, and I could probably comment out what the words were, right? Save strings. Which works like this, maybe? Save strings expects a string and a string array. Okay, so the string array is definitely document lines. What goes in the string argument? Yeah, where you want it to put it. So I'm going to put this in, creatively enough, document.text. And does document.text exist right now? No. Depending on the language, this could kick an error or create the document. I think most languages would just create the document. So let's just assume it's going to create the document. What do I expect to happen here? Yeah, and that's all it's going to do, right? Because all my print lines are commented out. Okay, so it didn't do anything. That's probably actually good. And now I need to go find my thing. So where's my random book? There it is. Document. Stuff.
Success.
Cool. All right, so now what should we do?
Bump the number of lines and bump the number of characters in the word.
I say we change the character route to random between 1 and 10. So every time it chooses a number between 1 and 10, it generates that many characters, and that is a word. Goes to the next one, randomly decides how many characters.
Sure. So we could do that.
Add space to the array.
Yeah, I think I wanted to put in the punctuation and the spacing, right? And I don't have those in there right now. So right now, all it's doing is generating characters that are A through Z. So I'm going to bump my number of characters up to 30 and my lines up to 400. Now, if I execute this, I expect this to make a bigger text file, right? Oops, and of course, it needs to be opened every time. Okay. Cool. Monkey typewriter. I thought I saw the word Fury in there. I did. Cool. All right. So, I would like this to have my... I want comma and space and period in here, right? Okay. To get comma and space and period in here, what do I need to do? Let me dump some of my debugging stuff. So I'm going to just clean up my code a little bit. Let's see. I don't need that. I don't need that. Probably don't need that debugger. Probably this comment should be more reasonable, like populate the letters array. Let's see. I can probably dump my kind of goal stuff because I feel like this is pretty well doing what it should be doing. So I made an array of allowed things. Oh. I didn't actually make an array of allowed things. I just made the array of A through Z, right? Okay, so let me fix that. How do I populate the letters array in such a way that it contains... What were the other ones I wanted? Space, period, comma. Totes. Good idea. So if I append them, I do letters equals letters. Wait, is it letters dot append or is it? No. Yeah. So we're appending to the letters array. First things first. Space. Cool. All right. So where'd that put space in the letters array? Position 26. How else could I have done this? Look, here, I'll show you how I could have done it. So in position 20, let's see, so that was 26, right? So in position 27. Oh, there isn't a position 27. So I could make this a little bigger, right? And then do this. That would be the other way. Now that I've done an append, I probably don't want to do that. Right? Because otherwise they'll get out of order. So as we found out, append adds stuff to the end, even if the empty spaces are null. Or even if you have empty spaces. We could write a better append method. Right? That would check for null spaces and fill up the null spaces first, and then... But it would be really weird and unpredictable, which is why they have this one. Because now when it goes through the array, when you run an array through the append method, it always gets longer. Right? Okay, so I can do the same thing, right, with... What were the others I wanted? Comma, period. It's just adding them to the array of possible random things, right? And then the reason that it's a good idea to use the length...
Just for the sake of clarity, you should do comma space, period space. But those would be strings.
Carefsies. The book does not seem to care. See, it doesn't put spaces after... That would be a reasonable rule to add, but then we'd have to change everything to strings. I thought I was going to have to change everything to strings anyway, because I wasn't actually sure that these would count as characters. I'm still a little worried that when I run this, it won't actually work. But let's try it. Cool. Processing's freaking awesome. Let's see. There's that document. Rad. Cool. That added all sorts of stuff. That looks neat. That looks kind of like the gibberish you would expect from story. Oh, look, there's 2 spaces in a row. How likely is that? See 2 spaces in a row on a page. It turns out that it's probably pretty likely because you see 2 other letters in a row fairly often and you don't notice. Right? So not that uncommon. Should be 1 in 29 squared. First you need to get a space, right? And then you need to get a space following it. Yeah, so if there's one, given that there's 1 space, the chances of the next thing following it being a space is 1 in 29. Okay, cool. So we got this working. Now I would like to mimic this thing next. So my next goal is going to be to see if I can do searching in